family ties. Then and now, 2026. The brightly lit kitchen of the Keaton household defined an era, but beneath the laughter of 30 million weekly viewers lay a cold, hard financial hierarchy that would break most modern stars. In 1982, fame was a golden cage where a teenager could out-earn a veteran, and a guest star's pittance was the seed of a future billion-dollar empire. Do we ever truly outrun the ghosts of our greatest successes, or is the 2026 reality for these icons a silent testament to the cruelty of time? Number 1. Meredith Baxter, $120,000 per episode. At 35, Meredith Baxter entered the Keaton household, not as a newcomer, but as a seasoned veteran of the screen, the daughter of a Hollywood actress who understood the jagged edges of the industry. As Elise Keaton, the liberal, architect mother, she commanded a presence that was legally reinforced by a most favored nations clause, a contractual iron shield ensuring her pay remained the highest on set. By the final seasons, those checks swelled to $120,000 per episode, a staggering sum in the late 1980s that cemented her as one of television's elite earners. Now, in 2026, at 78 years old, Meredith's life reflects a quiet, courageous departure from the suburban perfection she once portrayed. Having survived breast cancer and navigated a high-profile journey of self-discovery later in life, she has largely stepped away from the relentless grind of the cameras. Living with her wife in a world far removed from the 80s sitcom artifice, she is no longer a top earner by modern standards, but a respected survivor of a vanished studio system. Fans in 2026 view her not just as an architect of a fictional family, but as a woman who successfully rebuilt her own reality after the cameras stopped rolling. Number 2. Michael J. Fox, $100,000 per episode. At just 21, a diminutive Canadian actor with boundless energy stepped into the suit of Alex P. Keaton, a young Republican born to hippie parents. Michael J. Fox didn't come from Hollywood royalty. He was a struggling actor who famously paged his agent from a phone booth because he couldn't afford a telephone at home. Starting at a modest $15,000 to $25,000, his value shifted the axis of the Earth in 1985 with the release of Back to the Future. By the show's twilight, he was pulling in $100,000 per episode, a king's ransom for a young man who, just years prior, was living on macaroni and cheese. In 2026, at 64, Michael J. Fox stands as a figure of monumental grace, though his battle with Parkinson's disease has moved him far from the frantic pacing of his youth. Retired from acting, he remains a titan of philanthropy, having raised billions for medical research. He doesn't sit on a hoard of silent gold. He has spent his wealth and his health to save others. To the public in 2026, he is no longer just a sitcom star or a time traveler. He is a living saint of the silver screen, a man whose spirit remains untouchable even as his physical frame yields to time. Number 3. Michael Gross, $75,000 to $90,000 per episode. At 35, Michael Gross brought the soul of a Chicago-born stage actor to the role of Stephen Keaton, the gentle public television manager with a heart of gold. Coming from a background in theatre, Gross was a disciplined professional who became the show's steady anchor. While he lacked the most favored nations clause of his TV wife, his seniority and undeniable chemistry with the cast saw his salary climb steadily to a peak of nearly $90,000 per episode by the final curtain call. He was the quintessential 80s father, a man whose paycheck reflected his status as one of the two pillars upon which the entire Keaton house was built. Now, in 2026, at 78 years old, Michael Gross remains one of the few cast members who never truly stopped working, though his path took a cult classic turn into the Tremors franchise. Living comfortably and still active in the industry, he has avoided the tragic pitfalls of child stardom or the fading relevance that haunts many of his peers. He remains a beloved figure, often praised for his humility and his enduring passion for model railroading, a hobby as grounded as the character he played 40 years ago. In 2026, the public views him as a rare specimen, a Hollywood veteran who maintained his dignity and his bank account without losing his soul. Number 4. Justine Bateman, $30,000 to $50,000 per episode. At 16, Justine Bateman was thrust into the spotlight as Mallory Keaton, the fashion-obsessed antithesis to her intellectual brother, Alex. Born to a family already dipping its toes into the industry, her father a producer and her brother Jason a rising star, Justine embodied the quintessential it girl of the mid-80s. While she began the series earning a modest $10,000 per episode, her cultural impact as a style icon for American teenagers forced the network's hand. By the height of the show's popularity, her salary climbed to $50,000 per episode, a reflection of her face adorning the covers of every major teen magazine in the nation. Now, in 2026, at 60 years old, Justine Bateman has staged one of the most radical transformations in Hollywood history. Having walked away from the vanity of the camera, she has reinvented herself as an outspoken director, author, and advocate for natural aging. Residing in Los Angeles, she has traded her sitcom earnings for the intellectual capital of a filmmaker who refuses to bow to the industry's obsession with plastic surgery. In 2026, the public no longer sees the flighty Mallory. They see a fierce, grey-haired visionary who views her 80s fame as a distant, neon-coloured fever dream. She isn't just surviving on old residuals. She is thriving by burning her old image to the ground. Number 5. Tina Yothers, $20,000 to $35,000 per episode. At just 9 years old, Tina Yothers was the baby of the Keaton household, a child of a television producer who literally grew up in front of a live studio audience. As Jennifer Keaton, the tomboyish voice of reason, she navigated the awkward transitions of puberty while the world watched from their living rooms. Her salary followed a standard, albeit lucrative trajectory for a child star of the 80s, starting at a few $1,000s and maturing to a peak of $35,000 per episode by the series finale. For a young girl in 1989, this was an astronomical sum, yet it was a fraction of what her adult co-stars commanded for the same half-hour of television. Now, in 2026, at 52 years old, Tina Yothers has effectively vanished from the Hollywood machine that once defined her existence. Unlike many child stars who spiraled into the void of the Hollywood curse, Tina chose a life of relative obscurity, focusing on her family and music in the decades following the show's end. She isn't a regular on the red carpet or a fixture of the tabloid cycle. Instead, she lives a quiet, suburban life that mirrors the very world Family Ties sought to portray. In 2026, the public views her with a sense of nostalgic relief, a child star who took her earnings, walked away from the flickering lights, and found peace in the silence. Number 6. Brian Bonsall, $10,000 to $15,000 per episode. At just 5 years old, Brian Bonsall joined the Keaton household as the precocious Andrew Andy Keaton, a character introduced to inject fresh energy into a series already entering its golden years. Coming from a non-showbiz background in California, Brian was the quintessential cute kid of the late 80s, a blonde-haired moppet who quickly became a fan favorite. Because he joined the cast in season 5, long after the core hierarchy had been established, his salary reflected that of a late-edition child star, topping out at a modest $15,000 per episode. It was a fortune for a kindergartner, yet a pittance compared to the millions his television brother, Alex, was generating for the network. Now, in 2026, at 44 years old, Brian Bonsall's reality is a stark, gritty contrast to the polished kitchen of the Keatons. His journey through the 2000s was marred by highly publicized legal troubles and substance abuse, a dark shadow that replaced his bright-eyed television image. However, by 2026, he has undergone a quiet redemption, finding solace not in acting, but in the raw energy of the punk rock scene. Living far from the glitz of Hollywood, he is a musician and a father, having traded his sitcom residuals for a life of authenticity on the fringes of the industry. To the public in 2026, he remains a cautionary yet hopeful tale, a reminder that fame found too early can burn, but it doesn't have to consume the entire soul. Number 7. Courtney Cox, $7,500 to $10,000 per episode. At 23, a fresh-faced girl from Alabama, best known for dancing in a Bruce Springsteen video, walked onto the Family Ties set as Lauren Miller, Alex's psychology student girlfriend. Courtney Cox didn't come from a dynasty. She was a hungry actress looking for a foothold in a town that eats newcomers alive. Joining in the final 2 seasons, her salary was the lowest of the main rotation, a standard recurring guest rate that peaked at $10,000 per episode. To the producers in 1987, she was a supporting player. To the bank, she was a footnote in the Keaton family ledger. Now, in 2026, at 61 years old, the financial irony is staggering. The woman who earned the least on this set became the titan of the industry, fueled by the $1 million per episode legacy of Friends. Sitting on a real estate and production empire worth hundreds of millions, Courtney is the undisputed economic victor of this list. While her peers from the 80s transitioned into quiet lives or different careers, she remains a global powerhouse. Her face still a fixture in the 2026 cultural zeitgeist through directing and savvy business ventures. To the public today, she isn't just Alex P. Keaton's old flame. She is the blueprint for how to turn a guest star pittance into a billion-dollar legacy. The kitchen lights of the Keaton household may have dimmed decades ago, but the echoes of their laughter and the weight of their disparate legacies remain etched into the heart of television history. Whether their journey led to the quiet sanctuary of a private life, the selfless battle for a cure, or the iron-fisted rule of a media empire, these 7 souls provided the heartbeat of a generation. Their stories remind us that while fame is fleeting, the art they created is truly immortal. If you want to uncover more hidden histories of the icons who shaped your world, hit that subscribe button and join our investigation into the shadows of stardom. Don't let the past fade away. Stay tuned.